It is Leslie, or Librarian Leslie, or you may know me as Miss Leslie from the Anacortes Public Library, and we are so excited that you are with us today for our Light and Shadows STEM class. Now, sometimes you hear it called STEM, sometimes it's STEAM, sometimes it's even STREAM, but it's all about, so STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're basically going to have some fun today and put on our scientific hat. We're going to pretend to be scientists, and we're going to ask questions, and we're going to make some predictions, and we're going to make some mistakes, and we're going to try and try again, because that is what scientists do all the time. But before we get started, I wanted to thank our friends at the Franklin Institute. And the Franklin Institute is an amazing science museum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a very long way from Anacortes, Washington, but a really amazing place that really encourages kids to try to be scientists and to learn and to have fun and to make mistakes and to try new things again and to maybe think about something in a different way or trying something in a different way. And they really helped us put together this class today. And they love it when kids try to be scientists and experiment, just like we're going to do today. And they also really like to add books to some of their STEM programs. So we have a book that we're going to read today, and we also have some other books that we have here at the library that you're welcome to come and check out anytime to find out more about light and shadow. All right, shall we go ahead and get started? So my friends, we're going to learn about light and shadow, and light helps us to see things. And shadows are something that get formed when it blocks light. So they work really well together, light and shadow. And we're going to use some everyday objects that you have and learn a little bit about making shadows and about different kinds of light and having some fun. So I'm going to start with a flashlight, and you may have a flashlight like this at home. We have some in the library that are little flashlights like this. And if you don't have either of these, your grown-up probably has a flashlight on their phone. So if you don't have a flashlight like this, perhaps your grown-up can help you by letting you use their phone today for the flashlight until you get one like this. So these I'm just going to put aside for just a minute. And speaking of grown-ups, I really want to encourage the grown-ups that are at home with you to encourage you to ask different questions about what we're doing today. And kids are the ones who are going to find the answers, and we really want you to make some guesses or some predictions about what we're doing and keep trying until you find a different way of doing it. And grown-ups, if you can just really encourage your young scientists and let them have fun and explore, that would be terrific. All right, so I'm going to have you gather your supplies, and we have a really fun sheet that is in the comments that you guys can print out if you'd like, and it's called Light and Shadow, Explore the World of Light and Shadow, and it has all of our materials and the different experiments, so you can always refer back to this afterwards, and you can look at the list of supplies that we've listed here, and you can pause and go get them and then come on back. So that's one thing that we have today. So the things we're going to use are going to be the flashlights that we talked about. If you have some plastic animals, so I have a very big zebra here, and then I have some smaller dinosaurs, so any size of plastic animal will work. If you've got some blocks, some wooden blocks, that's awesome. I've got a couple rectangles, and I've got a cylinder here, and I have a triangle. So we're going to use those as well. If you don't have blocks, I was looking around my house this morning and I found some things that were like the shape of blocks. So I had a can of sparkling lemonade in my refrigerator, which is similar to our cylinder. So you could use something like that, or maybe you have a can of soup or something like that that could be like your cylinder. So you can improvise. And I didn't have any blocks at my house, so I thought instead of a big block, you could use, this is a box of pasta. And it's sort of shaped like a rectangle, isn't it? So that's something that you could use when we're going to be doing the blocks part of our experiment today. The other thing it would be great to have is if you have any cups. So here I've got 3 different kinds of cups, and we'll be doing something with those a little bit later. For now, I'm just going to set those aside. And if you have any cookie cutters, that would be cool. These are these cool outline cookie cutters, and those are great, or you can use any kind of cookie cutter, but that's something that we'll be using too. All right, so give me just a minute and we will get started experimenting a little bit with our flashlight. So as I mentioned, today's program is all about light. What are some places that you've seen light before? If you go outside, what's something that's a great big light in the middle of the day? And especially this time of year, not always in the middle of winter. But did you say the sun? Yes, the sun is a huge source of light for us. And what about at nighttime? What is providing some light, especially these days? It's been very bright in the night sky. Did you say the moon? Yes. How about lights that you can turn on and off at night that are inside and outside? Maybe you have street lamps in your neighborhood. Maybe you have lights outside your house that provide light, and also the light you can see inside your house when you're outside playing, maybe after dark. Those are all things that provide light. And what's it like in a room when you have a lot of light? Like maybe in the morning when you're first waking up? It's pretty bright, isn't it? How about if you have no light in the room? What is that like? It's pretty dark, isn't it? So we're going to experiment a little bit with our flashlight. So we're going to use this little one at first, and then we're going to use another flashlight that my friend JJ has set up for me. But we're just going to play with this, and we're pretending this is a blank wall at your house. So can you see that light shining on the wall there? And can you see where it's the brightest and where it's darker? Did you say in the middle of the light it's a little bit brighter? It is. And then outside it's got a little bit more of a shadow, doesn't it? And then I'm going to hold up. It's hard when at home, I think you could do this with your fingers and play a little bit that way. It's hard for you to see that because I'm filming this. So I am going to use this little square. And when it's close up like this, it's hard for you to see. But look, if I pull my light back further, do you see my square getting bigger on that white wall? It's making the shadow bigger, isn't it? I wonder what is making that happen. We're going to read a story in a minute and learn a little bit more about that. Isn't that cool? And then we can move this square around. And because I've got this flashlight and my big, powerful flashlight already on, maybe you can see that a little bit better. And then if I move it out, can you see it a little bit bigger on the white wall? And then if I move it in, it's harder to see that shadow because it's close by. How about when you are outside playing and the sun is out and you see a shadow behind you? If you walk away, does the shadow get bigger? And if you walk closer, does your shadow get smaller? That's a fun thing to experiment with. So we're going to put that down for night. And then, so as we said, a shadow is something that blocks the light. So here you can see we've got the light on this square, and where the shadow appears is where the light can't get through that piece of paper. So it's making a shadow. Isn't that cool? And depending on if your paper or your object is translucent or transparent or opaque, those are big fancy words we're going to talk about in a little while, then more or less light will go through. So this paper is opaque, meaning you can't see through the paper at all. So it's totally blocking that light there. And that's what's making that shadow. All right, we are going to go ahead and read our story, and then we're going to do some experimenting with our objects. So I will be right back, and if you want to pause our tape right now, you can go gather the supplies we're going to need for after the story. So I'll meet you right back here and we'll read our story. Okay? Awesome. So we are going to read our story next. And the story we're reading today is called Dreams by Ezra Jack Keats. And that may be an author whose name you know. He wrote the amazing book of A Snowy Day, which features that awesome boy Peter in a snowstorm, and it won a Caldecott winner. It was a Caldecott medal winner many years ago, and it's really popular. And if you haven't read it, let me know and we can help you find that. But before we read Dreams, I wanted to show you this other book that we have, and we have it in the library, and then I have my own copy. And this is my own copy, and it's called Blackout. And it's a cool book. It's a little bit longer, so we're not going to read it as part of our story today. But this won a Caldecott Honor, which means it was one of the best picture books of the year that it was written. And it's about a night in New York City when all the lights went out and what happened. And you can see a bunch of people up on the rooftop here. But the thing I wanted to show you is sometimes the illustrator, when he's making a book, he's got the illustration that's on the case and then the illustration that's on the cover. And sometimes they match and sometimes they don't. And that's a really fun thing that you can do, and you can take the book jacket off and see what is there. So that is the book Blackout, which we do have in the library, which you can check out. So let's go ahead and read Dreams. And what do you think about, I'm gonna move this because it's sort of in my way a little bit. There we go. So what do you think about that cover for Dreams? What do you see? I see a boy, and he's holding, can you see what he's looking at there? It looks to me like it's a little animal. Any guesses what it might be? Let's go ahead and read the story and find out, shall we? Okay, so Dreams by Ezra Jack Keats, and we want to thank our friends at Viking Books for letting us share this with you today. So here we go. It was hot. After supper, Roberto came to his window to talk with Amy. Look what I made in school today, a paper mouse. That's what's on that cover. Oh, it's a paper mouse. How cool is that? Does it do anything? Amy asked. Roberto thought for a while. I don't know, he said. Then he put the mouse on the windowsill. So do you see Roberto? And do you see Amy? And it looks like maybe they live in the city, maybe in an apartment building. Hope you can see those illustrations okay. Let's see what happens next. As it grew darker, the city got quieter. Bedtime, Roberto, called his mother. Bedtime for you too, other mothers called. Good night, Amy. Good night, Roberto. Good night, echoed the parrot. Soon they were all in bed. Do you see all those different folks in their different windows going to bed? How cool was that? Someone began to dream. Oops, let me see if I skipped a page. No, that's it. Someone began to dream. I wonder whose window that is that's dreaming first. Soon, everybody was dreaming except for one person. Can you see the one window where there's no dreaming going on? Do you see what the illustrator did? There are all these cool illustrations in every window but this one. Do you remember whose window that was? That's Roberto's, isn't it? And do you see his mouse is still there? Let's see what's going on with Roberto and that mouse. Somehow, Roberto just couldn't fall asleep. It got later and later. Oh, that's hard on nights like that when you can't fall asleep. Finally, he got up and he went to the window. What he saw down in the street made him gasp. Do you see him looking out the window there? I wonder what he's seeing. Do you think we'll see it on the next page? Any guesses what he might be seeing? Oh my gosh, friends. There was Archie's cat. A big dog had chased him into a box. The dog snarled. "He's trapped," thought Roberto. "What should I do?" Oh my gosh. That's so hard because Roberto is so far up, and it sounds like that's not the nicest dog right now. That kitty looks very scared. Uh-oh. Then it happened. His pajama sleeve brushed the paper mouse off the windowsill. It sailed away from him. Do you see that, friends? It's going down, down, down. Oh no. Down it fell. Oh my gosh, do you see what's happening to that mouse? Do you see the mouse, and do you see what's happening on the wall behind him? Do you see his shadow? Isn't that cool? The mouse turned this way and that, casting a big shadow on the wall. So look at the size of the mouse and look how big the shadow is. There's something interesting with lights and shadow. Oh my gosh, look at how big that shadow is. Whoa. Here's the little mouse, and here's the great big shadow. The shadow grew bigger and bigger. What do you think that dog is thinking of that huge shadow? Whoa, look at that. It's huge. It got even bigger. The dog howled and ran away. There's the dog running off the edge of the page. And do you see our friend the cat? The cat looks okay in the box there. Maybe the cat can see the paper mouse. The cat dashed across the street and jumped through Archie's open window. Wow, wait till I tell Archie what happened, thought Roberto. That was some mouse. He yawned and went back to bed. I think he got to sleep. Morning came and everybody was getting up except one person. Can you see whose window looks like he's still dreaming? I think it's Roberto. Maybe because he was up so late watching his paper mouse in his adventure. Roberto was fast asleep, dreaming. There it is on the day. Can you say it with me? The end. Isn't that a fun story? So that is Dreams by Ezra Jack Keats. So friends, we are going to go ahead and play around, and we are going to have some fun and do some experimenting with some shadows and see what we can do. So remember we talked about having some animals. That's one thing we're going to test out. And then we're going to test out our blocks, like so. And we're going to even try our cookie cutters. So here we go. So we've got our big flashlight on. Can you see it here on the white, our wall right here? Do you see that? So do you remember how the mouse was getting bigger and bigger? So let's see, if I move this closer, whoa, the closer I move it to the light, do you see how that is getting bigger and bigger? Maybe that's what was happening, that the light was down below and the mouse was falling towards the light. Because if I move closer to the wall, it's hard for you to see that all the way, but the square is getting smaller. So let's see what happens with our animal friends. So I'm gonna try this little dinosaur. He's awfully little. Can you see him? It's sort of hard. It might be hard for you to see him. He might be too little. It'll be easier at home with your own flashlight, but he's right up there. And let's see if I move him closer. He's getting a little bigger, isn't he? And then if I move this even closer, do you see him getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Isn't that fun? That little tiny dinosaur looks awfully big as it moves closer to the light. And let's move him back this way. Now he's getting smaller. Let's try one more dinosaur. Let's see. I thought I had a T-Rex. Oh, not a T-Rex, but let's see if he stands up okay. Do you see that dinosaur? Can you see him on the wall there? All right, he's getting smaller because we're moving him away from the light. But if we move him towards the light, whoops, he fell off. He's a little small. He's getting bigger and bigger. There he goes. All right, let's try our friend the zebra. That will be a little bit easier for you to see. So what do you notice about the shadow of the zebra? I'm going to move him as close as I can to that wall. And can you see? It's a little bit bigger behind the zebra, the shadow. But what happens if I move him a little closer? Do you see what's happening there with the zebra? He's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh my goodness. Do you see how I can make him move? The light, if it hits him in different angles. He looks very different, isn't he? Isn't that cool? I love this light and shadow. All right, Mr. Zebra, thanks for playing with us. Now I want to try with our friends the blocks. So we've got our blocks. We're going to put these two blocks, and let's put that little triangle on top. Can you see that? See how the light, so we can play around with these blocks. So if we put them right together, it looks like it's just one tower there, doesn't it? Do you see that? Because the light, the blocks, when you put them together, no light can get through those. And so that's what's making our shadow. And we can turn it different ways. We can make it go even bigger. Isn't that awesome? But then if we go back this way, and if we separate these out a little bit, and do you see there? That's a place where the light can get through now. So the shadow is where the blocks are because the light can't get through there. But in the middle, the light is able to get through. And we could have our little friend the dinosaur come out there. This is all about having fun. There he's coming out. Hello, he says. That could be his house. You could build a dinosaur house and have fun with it. So, what are we learning? That the further away from the light it gets, the shadow is smaller, but the closer to the light it gets, the shadow gets bigger. All right, and I'm gonna let you guys do the cookie cutters at home because we are taking way too much time. This always takes a little bit longer than I think it's going to. So there are our friends, the cookie cutters, so you can play with those as well. But I want to tell you really quickly about, let's get our cups out, because there are 3 different kinds of light. So light travels in a straight line, and when it leaves a light source, whether it be a flashlight or the sun, it moves in a straight path until it gets to an object. And depending on the type of object, the light can go through it a little bit or it's totally blocked by it. Like, do you remember what happened with our blocks? Our blocks, the light totally blocks, the block totally blocks the light. The block blocks the light. That's a little confusing. So that's what makes the shadow. But sometimes things are transparent, which means that light can go almost all the way through it. Sometimes it's translucent, meaning it can get part way through. And sometimes it's opaque, which means it can't get through at all. So can the light get through this block that's right here? It can't. So that's called opaque, which means it's a really dense object and the light can't get through it. But let's look at our different cups that I have. So I have this cup here, and I've got this other one, which is more, it's sort of like, it's not totally clear. And then this one, which is totally clear. So let's put that up there. And can you see that this one is what we call translucent? Because can you see that the light is getting through that cup on the shadow? All right, let's move our cup closer and closer. Do you see it getting bigger there? And then as we move it back. So that makes a different kind of shadow, doesn't it? Because you can put it through it, the light can go through it a little bit. Let's try this one, which is translucent. Oh, it actually looks pretty opaque. That's interesting. Let me try if I put this flashlight right up next to it. So a little bit, I'm not sure if you can see that, friends, but a little bit of light can get through it. If I put it in there, can you see that there's some light? Yeah, that's a good way to do it. See, so some light can get through it. Not like the translucent one, but this one transparent, so we can get a little bit in. See that there? And then our red cup is opaque, meaning that no light can get through it. So the shadow that it makes, do you see that? Looks like a great big tower, doesn't it? The light cannot get through it. Ooh, let's try putting our flashlight up and see if that, can you see a little bit of that light? You can see a little bit of it, can't you? Not as much as our one here, which is transparent. And then look at the one that's translucent. You can really see the light. You can really see that it's a flashlight in there, can't you? Even if you... Now let's see in here. Can you see the flashlight through that? You really can't see the flashlight much, but you sure can see the light that's shining through it, can't you? Isn't that interesting? So different, the texture and the materials of different things let different amounts of light through. So isn't that fun? All right, so those were our experiments that we had today. We'll have a few more on our sheet that we want you to give a try to. So before we close out, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. First, I want to tell you about a few more books that we have at the library that you can come and check out. This one is called Exploring the Science of Light, and there's some really wonderful things you can do in there that would be fun experiments to do at home. This is another one that has some activities that you could do called Light and Dark. And these are all going to be on the sheet, so you could put them on hold or you could just come in. And these other ones are awesome stories. So this is called Flashlight, and it has just fabulous illustrations and no words, so you can make up your own story. And this is a beautiful book called The Night World. You can see all sorts of light and shadow there. And then the other one that we had talked about was Blackout by John Rocco. So I hope you will come and get some of those books. And now for the challenge that I have for you. So I want you to go around your house. There's two things I want you to do. I want you to get a flashlight, and I want you to turn it on and go around your house. And this could be something really fun to do with a grown-up or with a sibling or a friend, and go on a shadow scavenger hunt. Take your flashlight and shine it in different places in a room, or ask your grown-up what would be a good room to do. Maybe your bedroom, or maybe in a room that you play, and you can find different shadows, and you can move your flashlight a little bit closer and a little bit further away and see if you can make the shadows bigger or smaller. So that could be really fun to do. And then the second challenge I want to give to you is to go around your house and find some really cool objects, and then experiment with translucent and transparent and opaque. Remember those three kinds of light that we talked about? So one thing I brought from my house was this blue bottle. And to me, like here, I'm just seeing a shadow. Oh, but I do see a little bit of blue going through it. So that must be translucent, because a little bit of light is going through. And the other thing you could do is go to the kitchen and find really silly things like this. This is called a whisk, which you use when you're making eggs or beating something up, and maybe pancakes. And you can use your flashlight and try with different shadows with that. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to our friends at the Franklin Institute for their help with this program, and know that you can tune in to the other STEAM programs that Lisa and Ria did. And come see us in the library. We can't wait to hear about you being a scientist. Take care, friends. Bye.